In this view, we can see the foramina of the skull from the inside. First thing we notice are three different levels. It's almost like a stair step. Here we have the anterior cranial fossa. What sits here is the frontal lobe. Here in the middle cranial fossa, we have the temporal lobe sitting, and on top of it would be the parietal lobe. And back here, we have the cerebellum sitting on top of the posterior cranial fossa, and the occipital lobe would be higher than that. What I'm going to do is go through and look at all the foramina in the skull and tell you what goes through them. Here we have the cribriform plate. We saw that on the ethmoid bone for the passage of CN1, which is olfactory. Next we have the optic canal for CN2, which is the optic nerve. We look here between the lesser wing and the greater wing of the sphenoid. We have a line. This is called the superior orbital fissure. This is for cranial nerves 3, oculomotor, 4, trochlear, 5, sub-1, which is the ophthalmic division of trigeminal, and 6, abducens. This small round one is foramen rotundum for 5 sub-2, the maxillary division. This oval one is foramen ovale for 5 sub-3, mandibular division of trigeminal. This tiny little hole on the end is for foramen spinosum. Foramen spinosum is for middle meningeal artery, not a cranial nerve. We come over here on either side of the sella turcica, we see a foramen. This foramen is not found on any bone. This foramen is the gap between the sphenoid and the temporal bone. This is foramen lacerum. Nothing goes through foramen lacerum. It's filled with cartilage. If we take this to the back, on the petrous temporal here, on the posterior side, we see the internal acoustic meatus. This is where cranial nerve 7, facial, and cranial nerve 8, vestibulocochlear, will enter. Down here, we have a very large foramen. This foramen is the jugular foramen for the passage of the internal jugular vein. We also have 3 cranial nerves that go through here. Cranial nerve 9, which is glossopharyngeal, cranial nerve 10, vagus, and cranial nerve 11, spinal accessory. The jugular foramen is also not a true foramen. It is a gap between the temporal bone and the occipital bone. So you will not find this on any specific bone. It's merely a gap between 2 bones. This tiny little one on the rim of the occipital bone is the hypoglossal canal for cranial nerve 12, hypoglossal nerve. And this large one is foramen magnum. That's for the passage of the spinal cord, but also the vertebral arteries. One thing I would like to mention is this bone here, the sphenoid bone, has all of the cranial nerves passing through it from 2 through 6. That's 2, 3, 4, 5 sub 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. So all of the nerves pass through, but not all of them pass through the superior orbital fissure. We start with 2, optic canal. Here in the superior orbital fissure, we have 3, 4, 5 sub 1, and 6. Then we have 5 sub 2 and 5 sub 3. So keep in mind, 2 through 6 are on the sphenoid bone, but only 3, 4, 5 sub 1, and 6 are through the superior orbital fissure.